the key for that, or the purpose, I would say, for the young oncologist session was really for them, the young oncologists or the trainees or the junior faculty attending the meeting, to ask more senior scientists, though I don't necessarily consider myself that senior, but, just more, I guess, experienced researchers, how to navigate difficulties. It's really tricky to know, like we all know sort of the steps that you have to take, right? Like you got to get into graduate school, out of graduate school, get into a job, and we know like there are specific things that are expected of you once you have a certain position, but actually, what you need to prepare yourself for, in order to carry out all of the vast responsibilities that you don't necessarily have training for, but you are expected to perform well. So I think most of the questions that we received from the audience were really around, how to navigate difficulties. Specifically, one of the questions I responded to was, what was the most difficult scenario you had to overcome throughout your career? And so many of the people on the panel responded about time management, being overwhelmed with having to do, for them, it was clinical service and being a scientist, and being a person, a parent, for instance, or a spouse in your family. But for me, of course, I have all those things as well. But for me, the thing that I would say was the most difficult thing is something that I don't think I've actually overcome yet, which is being different. Being the only in a group, in a room full of hundreds, being the only whatever, the only African American, the only person studying disparities, the only woman in some cases. And so throughout my career, throughout my life, actually, I've certainly been the only or one of very few. And that's difficult, because it's isolating, in a society. Academicians, are supposed to work well together. You need collaborations. And so even before you get to the professional collaboration of intellectual partnership, you have to get over barriers of, sort of social stigma that, depending on where you are, can be more subtle or overt, and so I think that's one of the things that I talked about, was trying to find a way, when you find yourself in that scenario, try to find a way to reposition your perspective of, even if you are the only one, that means you're unique. And you bring then a unique experience of who you are. And diversity isn't just about what we identify as, it's about how we think, thought diversity. So the way I solve problems or even think about a scientific question in the interpretation of data is different, especially in this field, where we're talking about patients dealing with a diagnosis of cancer or a treatment of cancer. I bring not necessarily wisdom, but certainly a unique perspective about how patients perceive what they're going through, from my culture, and so that's one of the main things I said. Not only that, but not letting it, get you down. It's more than just a cliche of chin up, keep pushing forward. It's really hard sometimes to live through that and see the purpose of why you would continue to do it. I mean, it's really hard sometimes. And so having a support network is very important. And sometimes that support network is nowhere around you physically. You just need to know that you have someone in the world, people in the world who you can connect with, as often as you need to, in whatever modality you need to get through some of those hard times and encourage you, So that was for me, that was the take home out of that session.